Recruiting does not take a break. I don't care what dead periods say. I don't care what the NCAA calendar says. Recruiting is a year-round affair, just like college football is. Funny how that whole thing works. There's a lot of dudes, a lot of five-star dudes that are currently uncommitted. But we're going to get closer to a decision here as we get closer and closer to the college football and high school football season started. A lot of these kids want to get it over with. But I want to zoom out even a little bit further from, where they might go and what their decision could be, and just take a look at the potential impact on their schools they could go to, if that makes sense. So for Oklahoma, they currently have an RPM trend for two big-time defensive linemen. One of them is the number one overall player in the country for us here at On3, Williams Nwaneri. And the other is David Stone, who's actually from Oklahoma, but currently at IMG Academy. Let's start with Williams Nwaneri, though. Georgia is making a strong push for him right now. The Oklahoma buzz has been real throughout the duration of his recruitment, but Georgia is really trying to make a push for him right now. But let's just go ahead and say that Oklahoma does land Williams Nwaneri. What are they getting in him? Well, first, they're getting a 6'6", 265 physical specimen. Charles Power loves his length, loves the way he moves. He says he is the most physically gifted defensive lineman in this 2024 cycle. So if Georgia lands him, the rich get richer. No secret of what they have on the defensive line there and what they've done in terms of getting guys to the NFL, most specifically the Philadelphia Eagles. But if they were to land Williams Nwaneri, Oklahoma that is, that would be enormous. And even more enormous if they can land him with another enormous human being like David Stone. Again, this is not over. There's a lot of teams in the mix for David Stone. He's going to take some more visits. But he is twitchy and he is big. Just a disruptive presence, and he's a disruptive present for whoever lands him at 6'4", 280 pounds. He would be huge for Oklahoma to land should they get him. Again, RPM currently is trending for both these guys right now. Keep an eye on where the picks go. That could very well change. But I think it's interesting to look at what this could mean for Oklahoma. Because for them, it would mean two things. One, they have more insured depth on the defensive line, which remember, Oklahoma leaving for the SEC. Depth on the defensive line in the SEC is the equivalent of cell phones for millennials. Like you just need it to survive in that conference, right? And for Brent Venables, his calling card throughout the duration of his career at Clemson, those defenses that won national titles had a lot of big-time ballers on the defensive line, a lot of guys that went and played in the NFL they're still playing in the NFL, if you catch my drift there. So that's what Oklahoma's defense was missing last year. Did a lot through the portal to try and retool that. But if you were to land both these cats, that would be a perfect scenario for Oklahoma. And I would be hard-pressed to imagine that both these guys probably contribute in some form or fashion sooner rather than later. No pun intended. Because Oklahoma had some problems on the defensive line, trying to get it headed in the right direction, but you had two talents like that for the Sooners. That would be huge. So again, we're not dropping intel. We're not telling you they're going anywhere specific, but if that RPM were to hold all the way true and all the way through signing day and you land both these players, enormous get, both from an impact standpoint for Oklahoma and from a literal impact for Oklahoma. Some big human beings right there. Now, moving right along, MICAH HUDSON, 5-star wide receiver out of the state of Texas. All the buzz right now for him is around Texas Tech. And the dude, when you look at the scouting report from Charles Power, just a playmaker. Extremely productive in high school, over 1,000 yards receiving in his junior season. Extremely shifty route runner. Can just shake and bake at the top of the route and lose defenders like nobody's business. Put up a missing sign for those dudes. And also, he's really good after the catch, which is where I really want to hone in on. Anytime you can just throw a dude a shallow crossing route, and he can giddy up and go and get north and south and turn a 10-yard pass into a 45-yard touchdown, that's special. Not a lot of dudes just walking around with the playmaking ability of a MICAH HUDSON, who, again, is one of the top players in the country and a 5-star plus kind of player. Dude is the total package. And what it would mean for Texas Tech, I don't think you can overstate the importance of a commitment from a MICAH HUDSON should they land him. Would mean a couple of things. One, it would mean that you won a recruiting battle over in-state foe Texas, and Texas typically has a lot of success in the Lone Star State, and so to kind of steal one from them, it says a lot about the direction of the operation under Joey McGuire, but even more so, it is a narrative changer for Texas Tech because they've recruited well. I believe they are somewhere in the top 2 of the future Big 12 of how they're recruiting right now, but if you land MICAH HUDSON, you land a top 10 player in the country and bring him to Lubbock, It goes from, oh, good for Texas Tech. They're a nice story. They got some good things going under Joey McGuire. I hope they work it out. Shifts from that perspective to, whoa, they just landed who? They just landed MICAH HUDSON, took him from Texas. Okay, we really got to change the way we look at Texas Tech now. We really got to take them seriously. They're going to be a force for everybody on the recruiting trail. We got to take them pretty serious for every single recruitment that we're up against them in. And that'd be the same thought from teams within the college football landscape to, quite frankly, us as fans. We have to really consider what Texas Tech is going to be going forward. So for MICAH HUDSON, if he does go to Texas Tech, narrative changer, big time get. And I have to imagine he plays early if he gets to Texas Tech. Whether he's returning kicks, whether he lines up in the slot, like he's a dude that can help you day one. He's a rare talent, period, but there's not many dudes like MICAH HUDSON walking around in Lubbock right now, and you would imagine he plays early should he end up being a Red Raider. So there's that for you. Appreciate everybody tuning in live. Two things I'm going to ask. One, please subscribe to the video, please subscribe to the channel because of this video, I suppose, and please like the video. Thank you. All I'm going to ask, roll party roll. All right. Number one safety in the country, KJ Bolden, is nearing a decision, has a decision date for August 5th. And if you haven't subscribed yet, he's going to announce his decision right here on the On3 YouTube channel. So might as well subscribe so you don't miss that. There's a lot of action going on behind the scenes with him right now. Auburn wants him. This is one of those where you say, whoa, okay. Auburn got into Big Cat weekend, and okay, that's a big get for you. He's now landed the top safety in America. He's been there all of 15 minutes. Okay, Auburn, they got some real steam now on the recruiting trail. Again, he's headed to Big Cat weekend this coming weekend, so there's that. For Florida State, if you were to land a premier player like KJ Bolden, for Mike Norvell, I think that would, I don't know if it, makes up for anything with the Travis Hunter scenario and all that, but it would feel like, wow, look how far we've come from that Travis Hunter signing day deal. And Travis Hunter made the best decision for him. Like, I'm not here to talk down on Travis Hunter by any stretch of the imagination, obviously, but I think it speaks to where Florida State was at that point in time and where they are right now, even being discussed in the KJ Bolden sweepstakes. So there's that. But it really sounds like it's down to Ohio State and Georgia. I don't say it's limited to that, but I think those are the two that are getting the most buzz right now around his recruitment. And for Georgia, if you were to add him to the mix, it really is the rich continuing to get richer. Continue to have elite defensive backs in that locker room. You would imagine he eventually gets on the field at some point in time, whether it's early or later, like you just have another special talent in that secondary room. Not a ton to break down, just a special player going to a special team, gets developed, and does what you would expect a special player to do when put into position to succeed. Now, for Ohio State, he would mean a lot to that team because in the defense under Jim Knowles, they play multiple safeties on the field, and they've struggled in the secondary historically. They did a lot through the portal to help themselves this coming season. But you add KJ Bolden to the mix, I have a hard time seeing a scenario where he doesn't get on the field early and help them in a big way. So would mean a lot to anybody he lands. Georgia's probably still, in my mind, the front runner. But again, if you want to make sure you hear his decision first, subscribe right here, and you will be in the know when that all goes down. Now, edge defender Dylan Stewart is a top 10 player as well, another five-star guy, undecided out of Washington, D.C. Two schools getting the most love for him are Ohio State and South Carolina. I say love. The schools that are in the headlines the most for Dylan Stewart are both those schools. Had 16 sacks in 2022, runs a 4.6 40 at 6'5", 250 pounds. Y'all, that's freakish. I don't want to waste too much time talking about his recruitment because I think we have a little bit more to go in it, is my humble opinion. It could be something that happens before the season. It could be something that happens after the season. But with these two schools, Ohio State is pretty self-explanatory. Larry Johnson's that guy when it comes to the defensive line. They just landed Justin Scott not that long ago, shocked the entire country. You pair Dylan Stewart with Justin Scott, you're set up for success on the defensive line. Probably the next two great ones out of Columbus. Now for South Carolina, a little bit more intriguing. They landed Nicholas Harbor out of the D.C. area last year, who is obviously a special kind of recruit, potentially a generational recruit. And South Carolina has the most visits with Dylan Stewart right now. And so they're making a strong push right now. I'm telling you, as long as Shane Beamer's the head coach there, they're going to be in a lot of these high-profile recruitments. They will at least be a factor in a lot of these high-profile recruitments. And if Dylan Stewart ends up going to South Carolina, I think he plays early. South Carolina, it's no secret, struggled mightily last year against the run. if they can get a guy who's Dylan Stewart's caliber there and get him into the lineup sooner rather than later, like that would be the way you want to live if you're a South Carolina fan, and that'd be what you would hope would happen if you were to land Dylan Stewart. So his impact at South Carolina cannot be overstated. Now, a kid who's going to make a decision tomorrow, Friday that is, and I want to make sure we touch on this before we move on. Charles Lester III is a corner out of the state of Georgia. Again, a 5-star player. And to my understanding, it is down to Colorado and Florida State. Now, he just popped up at Colorado very, very recently for a surprise visit. I don't know if it's a surprise visit, but it was a bit of a surprising thing that he visited, is what I want to say. Like, everyone's trending towards Florida State, the buzz is around Florida State, and then, wouldn't you know it, he's at Colorado. So maybe surprise is the wrong word to use, but if you're trending so much towards one school, why does Colorado get a visit so close to you deciding your commitment? I think it's worth taking a look into. So I still believe it's Florida State until it's not, but 6'1", 171 pounds, fluid mover. I mean, great ball skills. There's a lot to like about him there, but Coach Prime and company, remember Deion Sanders, he's also from the state of Florida. We've seen this before with him grabbing Cormani McClain. Keep an eye on this as it gets down to decision time for him. Both those schools, it sounds like, are in it, but again, I'm betting Florida State until it's not, and if he goes to Colorado, I would be surprised. But you can't put anything past Coach Prime. And if Coach Prime were to land Charles Lester out of Florida, I mean, I think that speaks, again, to his reach and just to how much of a force he can be on the recruiting trail. For Florida State, would just be big to land a 5-star in-state and send a further message to everyone else across the country, everyone else in-state even more so. Florida State's going to be a problem for you on the recruiting trail. Done a lot through the portal, had a lot of playing time they could sell to guys via the portal, and had guys they needed to play sooner rather than later. But now they're in a position where that success on the field can be pushed to get some strong results on the recruiting trail. And Charles Lester, if they were to land him, would just be another byproduct of that. And really, I mean, a signal fire to where Florida State stands currently in the recruiting world in the state of Florida. So a lot of top dudes still uncommitted. The tectonic plates of the On3 industry team recruiting rankings are going to shift quite a bit here as we keep rolling and getting closer to signing day. But keep an eye on what these kids do here. KJ Bolden again deciding right here on the On3 YouTube channel on August 5th. Make sure you're subscribed again so you do not miss it. Hey y'all, thanks so much for watching. Subscribe to the channel here to make sure you don't miss an episode of The Hard Count. Also be sure to check out other videos on the On3 YouTube channel.